All right, today we're unlocking the Yoga Toolkit, Poses for a Healthier You. We're going to unpack a set of specific poses and techniques, all designed to build a stronger, more balanced you right from the inside out. So let's open it up and see what we've got. This is such a relevant question, isn't it? How can an ancient practice really help with our very modern problems? I mean, we live in this world of quick fixes, but so many of us are looking for something that actually lasts. A real solution for stress or poor digestion or just, feeling out of whack. And the answer might have been here all along. And this is the core idea to grasp. So often, people think yoga is just about being flexible. But it's so much more than just stretching. It's a complete system. It builds real strength, it gets your digestion working properly, and it can totally calm your mind. Think of every pose and every breathing exercise as a specific tool in your kit, one you can pull out to address exactly what you need. Okay, so let's start unpacking this whole toolkit. We're going to look at how yoga builds a solid foundation, how it improves your core, how it boosts your metabolism, and even how it regulates your energy just by using your breath. But first, and this is really important, a quick heads up. Before we jump into a single pose, we have to talk about the number one rule in yoga. Listen to your body. Seriously, not every pose is for every person, and a pose that felt great yesterday might not be right for you today. Safety always comes first. And here's exactly why that's so critical. You've always got to check for contraindications. Things like pregnancy, any recent surgery, blood pressure issues, back injuries. These are all situations where you absolutely have to be cautious, maybe modify a pose or even skip it entirely. If any of these apply to you, you have to check with a professional before you start. All right, with that important safety note out of the way, let's grab the first tool from our kit. We're going to start with poses for stability, basically building your foundation. This is the bedrock, the solid ground for everything else we're going to do. And our first pose is Tadasana, also known as the palm tree pose. The name kind of gives it away, doesn't it? The whole goal is to stand erect and straight, just like a palm tree, feeling grounded but also tall. It looks pretty simple, but trust me, it's incredibly powerful for creating balance. So how do you do it? Well, you start by standing with your feet just slightly apart. Then you interlock your fingers, raise your arms up over your head, and here comes the magic. You breathe in, stretch all the way up to the ceiling, and rise up onto your toes. That moment right there, that's a huge test of your focus. And the secret is just slow, controlled movement, both on the way up and on the way back down. And just look at the payoff for that one simple action. You're not just standing on your toes, you're actively strengthening your entire lower body, training your mind to be laser focused, and even improving your digestion. It's like a full body reset all packed into a single, powerful pose. Okay, our foundation is set. Time to grab our next tool, twists for a healthy core. And the perfect way to think about this is to imagine wringing out a wet towel. That's essentially what these poses do for your internal organs and your spine. They help flush out toxins and relieve all that built-up tension. Our first twist is Kati Chakrasana. The name actually makes total sense. Kati means waist, and chakra means circle or wheel. So it's literally a waist-rotating pose. It's a fantastic dynamic twist that feels amazing for your waist and spine. And the benefits here are basically the perfect remedy for our modern lifestyle. Especially if you spend hours at a desk, listen up. This twisting motion can open up your tight neck and shoulders, improve your spinal flexibility, and even help with digestive issues like constipation. A total game changer. Next up in our core toolkit is Pawan Muktasana. And you gotta love how direct the Sanskrit name is. Pawan means wind, and Mukta means to free or to release. So yep, this is quite literally the wind-relieving pose. This pose is a perfect example of yoga's direct power over digestion. That gentle compression on your abdomen helps release trapped gas, it boosts blood flow to your internal organs, and just makes them work better. And as a bonus, it strengthens your lower back and helps tone your core. Now let's add another tool to our kit, forward and backward bends. Think of these as a way to compress and release your internal organs and glands. You're creating this kind of flushing effect that can have a really powerful impact on your metabolism. And what's so fascinating is how these opposing movements work together. A forward bend compresses and massages organs like your liver and kidneys. Then a backward bend stretches and opens the front of your body, stimulating glands like the thyroid. It's like this perfect 1-2 punch for a complete internal tune-up. A perfect example of a powerful back bend is Dhanurasana, the bow pose. Dhanura just means bow, and you can totally see it, right? Your body literally mimics the shape of an archer's bow, creating this intense stretch along the entire front of your body while strengthening your back muscles. This one shape delivers a huge range of benefits. It's fantastic for making the spine more flexible and for firing up your digestion. It's even noted in the source material for helping with issues like constipation and for helping to trim excess fat. So we focused on the physical postures, the asanas, but no yoga toolkit is complete without its most powerful tool of all, the breath. This is what's called pranayama, or breath control, and it's how we regulate our body's energy on a much, much deeper level. Let's look at one specific technique. It's called Surya Bhavana Pranayama. Surya means sun, and in yogic philosophy, the sun is all about heat, energy, and that active part of us. So this breathing exercise is designed specifically to activate that solar energy. The pattern here is very precise. You always close the left nostril and inhale through the right. Then you close the right nostril and exhale through the left. Always in through the right and always out through the left. Why? Because the right nostril is traditionally linked to the body's heating, energetic channel, while the left is linked to the cooling, calming one. You're intentionally building that sun energy with every breath. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. When you look at the traditional texts, the benefits go way beyond just creating warmth. This practice is said to purify the brain, destroy intestinal worms, and remove ailments that come from an excess of wind, or vayu. And when you think about its energizing effect, it makes total sense why it's also noted as being really helpful for people with low blood pressure. So when you bring it all together, it's pretty clear that yoga offers a toolkit for wellness that goes far beyond just simple exercise. Let's do a quick review of the key tools we've packed today. Here it is, your holistic yoga toolkit. You have tools for stability, to ground yourself. You have tools for core health, to aid digestion. You have tools for your metabolism, using bends to stimulate your organs. And finally, you have tools for regulation, using your own breath to control your energy. Each one of these is a practical technique you now have at your disposal. So the final question really isn't just what these tools can do, but what are you going to do with them? How will you use this toolkit to build a healthier, more balanced you? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a really fascinating source text, one that draws a direct line from the ancient practice of yoga to our metabolic health. I mean, it's a pretty big question, right? So what our source claims is that certain yoga poses, you'll hear them called asanas, are traditionally used to help manage metabolic conditions, even things like diabetes. So let's get into exactly what the source says about how these techniques work. All right, let's jump right in. The source lays out 3 specific poses for us: the cobra, the frog, and the cow face. And for each one, we're going to break down the technique, what the text says the benefits are, and, this is super important, the safety warnings. So first up, let's talk about the cobra. All right, pose breakdown number 1, the cobra. This is a really foundational back bend. Its traditional name is Bhujangasana, and that name itself gives us a huge hint about what it looks like. So let's start there with the name. Bhujanga, that's Sanskrit for cobra. And the whole idea is that the final posture looks just like a cobra rising up, hood expanded. It's a fantastic visual to keep in mind, right? It really helps you understand the shape you're going for. Now, the technique the source describes is super specific. You start out lying face down, and then it really emphasizes this controlled step-by-step lift. First your chin, then your chest, and you're only arching your spine up to your navel. And that detail is really key. The source makes it clear it's not about how high you can lift, but about that controlled movement through your spine. And coming back down is just as slow and deliberate. And here's where we see that really crucial balance between the potential benefits and the risks. On one hand, the text talks about things like better spine flexibility and stimulating your digestive organs, which is seen as a big deal for metabolic function. But, on the other hand, the warnings are just as serious. The source is crystal clear. If you're pregnant or if you have something like spondylitis or any spinal injuries, this poses a no-go. Okay, now for something that's absolutely central to all of this. The breath. According to our source, your breath isn't just something that happens in the background. It actually guides the movement. You inhale as you lift up, breathe normally when you're holding the pose, and then exhale as you lower back down. The whole point is to get this smooth, synchronized dance going between your breath and your body. All right, moving on to our second pose breakdown, the frog. This one is called Mandukasana, and just like the cobra, the name gives it away. Yeah, the name is super literal. Munduk is just the Sanskrit word for frog. And what's interesting is that the source considers this one to be pretty straightforward, accessible for most people. So the technique here is a total 180 from the cobra. Instead of a back bend, this is a forward bend, and it's all about abdominal compression. You start off sitting in a position called Vajrasana. Then you make fists and press them right into your belly next to your navel. Then as you breathe out, you bend forward, keeping that pressure the whole time. And here we go again, that same pattern. A balance of benefits and cautions. The text points to good things for the digestive system and even suggests the pressure can help with fat on the belly and hips. But listen, the warnings are serious. The source says you've got to skip this one if you have severe back pain, if you've had recent abdominal surgery, high blood pressure, or if you're pregnant. Now, check out the breathing instructions here because they're different. The source tells you to exhale as you bend forward, but then, and this is the key difference from the cobra pose, you actually hold your breath when you're in the final posture. In the cobra, remember, the breathing was continuous. Here, you hold. Then you breathe in as you come back up. Okay, on to our final pose breakdown, cow face. The source presents this one, Gomukhasana, as a much deeper and more complex stretch. It really gets into both the upper and lower body. I know, the name cow face pose might sound a little weird, right? But the text actually has a pretty cool explanation. Go means cow, and mukha means face. It's all about the shape your crossed legs make. They're wide at the knees and then taper down at your feet, which is supposed to look like a cow's face. Kind of poetic when you think about it. Okay, this is for sure the most complex technique we've looked at so far. You're trying to stack one knee right on top of the other, and then at the same time, you're reaching your arms behind your back to try and clasp your hands. One arm comes from over your shoulder, the other from underneath. We're talking a deep, deep stretch for your hips, shoulders, chest, and arms, all at the same time. So, as you'd expect, the benefits the source lists are pretty amazing. Flexibility all over the body. But because it's so intense, the list of who should be cautious is just as long. The text is very direct. If you've got shoulder, back, or knee pain, or if you're pregnant, this is one to sit out. And the breath here, it becomes your best friend. The source explains it as a tool to manage just how intense this stretch is. You're supposed to use your exhale to maybe go a little deeper into the stretch, and then use your inhale to create a bit of space and ease off. It's this really dynamic thing, using your breath to navigate what you're feeling in your body. Okay, before we get to the big takeaways, we have to stop and really pull together all this safety info. It is a massive theme running through the entire source. Look, if there's one single message that screams out from all these warnings, it's this. The source couldn't be clearer. You have to know your own body. Understanding your personal limits is everything when it comes to practicing safely. And when you zoom out and look at all three poses, you start to see these patterns, right? Pregnancy comes up every time. So do recent surgeries and high blood pressure. And the source is basically saying that any existing major pain in your back, shoulders, or knees is a huge red flag to avoid these particular poses. All right, so we've broken down these three poses from the source. What are the big ideas we should be walking away with? Well, four main themes really jump out from the text. First, there's this huge focus on the digestive system, using pressure and stimulation. Second, there's a big emphasis on a healthy, flexible spine. Third, this idea that mindful breathing is not optional, it's part of the technique. And finally, and maybe most importantly, safety first. Those warnings are not just suggestions, they're non-negotiable. There's this quote from the source text that just wraps up the whole philosophy perfectly. It talks about this balance between the body's endless potentiality and the wisdom of knowing its weaknesses and limits. It's really beautiful. And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? After digging into this source, it really makes you wonder, what role could this kind of mindful movement, something that's so tied to breath and self-awareness, what role could that play in our own day-to-day lives? If you've ever really paid attention to your breathing, you know how powerful it can be. Well, today we're diving into a source that shows how some specific yoga practices could be a real game changer for respiratory health, especially when it comes to managing asthma. Let's see what it's all about. So here's the big question, right? Can something like yoga actually help you breathe easier? The material we're looking at today makes a pretty compelling case for how certain poses and breathing techniques are designed to do exactly that. So what is the connection? Well, according to our source, it really all comes down to creating space. You know that tight, restricted feeling in your chest when breathing is tough? The yoga practices we're about to look at are handpicked for their ability to stretch the chest and help your diaphragm move more freely. The whole goal is to boost lung capacity and just make every single breath feel a little bit easier. First up, we're going to explore 3 specific physical postures, or asanas as they're called. Each one has its own unique way of stretching and twisting the body, but they're all aimed at opening up your chest and spine to really support the breath. So, let's jump into our first pose. Okay, first we have Urdhva Hastottanasana, which thankfully is also known as the upward salute pose. It's a pretty straightforward name. In Sanskrit, Urdhva means upward and Hasta means hands. It might look simple, but this standing side bend is surprisingly powerful. So here's how you do it. You're going to start by standing up nice and tall and interlocking your fingers. When you inhale, you stretch your hands way up high. Then, as you exhale, you slowly, gently bend over to one side. The real key here is to link your breath with the movement. You inhale to get longer as you come up, and you exhale as you go into that gentle bend. Now, this is what I find so interesting, the benefits. For what we're talking about today, here's the big takeaway. This pose stretches those little intercostal muscles that are between your ribs. By creating more space there in your chest, it can directly help your lungs take in more air. The source also points out that it's fantastic for back pain and just improving your posture in general. Of course, with any physical practice, being safe is absolutely crucial. The source is pretty clear here. You should probably skip this pose if you're pregnant, or if you're dealing with a headache, insomnia, or varicose veins. You've always got to listen to your body. All right, let's move on to our second pose, Uttan Mundaka Asana, or the upright frog pose. And yeah, it kind of looks like what it sounds like. This is a seated pose, and it's specifically designed to really open up the shoulders and the chest, an area where we often feel that tightness when we breathe. So the technique starts in a simple, comfortable kneeling position called Vajrasana. From there, you just spread your knees apart a bit and then cross your arms behind your back, trying to place each hand on the opposite shoulder blade. It's a really deep, satisfying stretch for the shoulders and your upper back. The big benefit here is how it affects your diaphragm. You know, that huge muscle that basically powers all of your breathing. For anyone with asthma, breathing efficiently is the whole ballgame. By freeing up the chest and shoulders, this pose lets the diaphragm move more fully, which encourages these deeper, less strained breaths. Plus, it's great for back pain and posture. And of course, you got to be careful with a deep stretch like this. The source is very specific that if you have arthritis, a hernia, any severe back issues, or pain in your elbows or shoulders, you should definitely avoid this particular pose. Our final posture is Vakrasana. In Sanskrit, Vakra actually means twist. So this is quite literally the twisted pose. It's a seated spinal twist that gets the entire torso involved, all the way from your hips up to your neck. Okay, so to do this one, you sit with your legs straight out in front of you. Then, you bend one knee and plant that foot on the outside of the opposite leg. From that position, you just gently twist your torso toward that bent knee, using your arms to help deepen the twist, but without ever forcing it. And this is where it gets really cool. It shows how a simple twist can do so much. According to the source, not only does it help straighten out the upper back and strengthen neck muscles, but that gentle squeezing and releasing action is also thought to tone your internal organs and even activate glands like your thyroid. Now, for the very important safety stuff with this spinal twist, the source says to avoid this pose if you're pregnant. It's also not a good idea for anyone with a recent back injury or a weak neck. All right, so we've looked at the physical postures. Now we're going to shift gears from movement to the breath itself. Our source points to a specific breathing technique, a pranayama, that's known for having this really powerful calming and balancing effect on the nervous system. This is called Anulam Vilam, or alternate nostril breathing. It's a really fundamental practice where you basically just switch which nostril you're breathing through. It's believed to bring this great sense of balance to both your body and your mind. The technique itself is very precise, but it's easy once you get the hang of it. Just like the slide shows, you use your thumb and your ring finger to gently close off one nostril at a time. The pattern is simple. You breathe in through your left nostril, close it, and then you breathe all the way out through your right. Then you breathe back in through the right and all the way out through the left. That's one full round. Okay, now this is the secret sauce, the rhythm. The source suggests a very specific ratio, a slow inhale for a count of 5, and then a much, much slower, controlled exhale for a count of 10. This idea of making your exhales twice as long as your inhale is what's thought to kick in your body's relaxation response, and that can be incredibly helpful for managing stress-induced asthma symptoms. And the benefits listed here are pretty amazing. This practice is said to calm and steady your mind, improve your focus, and even help regulate things like high blood pressure. When it comes to respiratory health, a calm nervous system is a massive advantage.
Okay, that was a lot of information. Let's pull it all together now. Here's a quick at-a-glance summary of the key practices we've just covered from our source. This table just lays it all out perfectly. You've got the upward salute, which is all about increasing lung capacity, then the upright frog pose to help with the diaphragm's movement. The twisted pose helps tone our internal systems, and finally, Anulom Vilom to calm and steady the mind. Each one of these practices offers a unique benefit for our breathing, along with a really important safety note to always keep in mind. And that really brings us to our final thought. This source paints a picture of a deep, powerful connection between how we move our bodies, how we consciously breathe, and our overall state of well-being. It kind of leaves us with this big question to think about. Could the real key to wellness be found in that amazing place where our movement and our breath finally meet?
All right, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to dive into something pretty fascinating. You know, we're always looking for the next big thing to solve our modern problems, right? Well, what if one of the best tools for tackling something as modern as high blood pressure is actually an ancient practice? Let's get into it.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? In a world obsessed with upgrades and biohacks, it's kind of easy to dismiss something old. But what if the answer has been right here, with us, for thousands of years? We're going to unpack that idea together in this explainer. So think of this as a kind of guided journey. We're going to move step by step through a specific sequence designed to calm the nervous system and give your cardiovascular health some real support. And we're going to start by building a solid foundation. Okay, first things first. Before we can really relax, we need to build a strong physical foundation. So these first few poses, they're all about creating stability and getting the circulation moving. You can think of them as the building blocks for all the deep relaxation that comes later.
And our very first pose is Uttanpadasana, which you might know as the raised leg pose. What's cool is the name itself basically tells you what to do. It comes from the Sanskrit uttana, which means to raise upward, and pada for feet or legs. Super simple, right? A beautifully clear instruction.
So how do we actually do this? Well, you start by lying flat on your back. And the key here is control. It's all about slow, deliberate movement. You slowly raise your legs together, making these little pauses at 30 degrees, then 45, and finally up to 60. And coming back down is just as important, slow and steady. See, this isn't just about cranking out crunches. It's engaging those deep muscles that really support circulation and help regulate your body's pressure. And when you look closer, you see all these other benefits pop up. Yeah, you're building abdominal strength, but that helps with digestion and supports your entire core. But, and this is super important, you have to practice with awareness. The source material is really clear on this. If you have any back injuries, if you're pregnant, or if you have a severe cardiac condition, this pose is one to skip. Safety always comes first. All right, so we've done the work, we've engaged our core and built up some strength. Now we get to shift gears. We're moving from effort to ease. The next set of postures are all designed to release tension and really encourage deep relaxation. And this next pose is the perfect example of that shift. It's called Sarala Matsyasana, or the easy fish pose. Saral literally means easy, and Matsya means fish. So right away, you know the focus here isn't on straining yourself, but on this gentle, restorative opening of the body. So to get into this one, you just start on your back. The goal is to create this gentle arch in your back, which opens up your chest, while the very top of your head just rests lightly on the mat. That chest opening part, that's key. It creates all this space for deeper, more relaxed breathing. You use your hands at first for a little support, and then you just relax them by your sides. The benefits here are all about soothing the digestive system, relieving that abdominal tension we can all carry around. But it's so vital to protect your neck and shoulders. The source is very specific. Anyone with cervical spondylitis or frozen shoulders should definitely avoid this one to prevent any kind of strain.
And now we've arrived at what might be the single most important pose for hypertension. It's called Shavasana, the corpse pose. Okay, I know, the name sounds a little grim, but its purpose is just profound. It's all about completely letting go of fatigue and finding true mental rest. The whole technique here is just about complete surrender. You lie back, you let your feet fall open naturally, no effort. Your arms rest a little bit away from your body with your palms facing up, which is this simple physical gesture of both receiving and letting go. For this pose, the only goal is to release all control and just let your body be completely, totally still.
And this right here, this is the big insight. It looks so passive, right? Like you're just lying there. But Shavasana is one of the most powerful poses for high blood pressure. By consciously relaxing every single muscle, you're allowing your nervous system to shift gears out of that stressful fight or flight mode and into the calm rest and digest state. That directly dials down the stress signals in your body. The only real warning here is a simple one. If your doctor has told you not to lie on your back, you listen to your doctor.
Now, the physical postures, they're just one part of the equation. Now we're going to transition to the final and maybe the most direct tool we have for managing hypertension, pranayama, or as you might know it, conscious breathing. We're going to focus on a specific one called Nadi Shodhana. Let's just break that name down for a second because it's pretty cool. Nadi refers to the subtle energy channels that run through the body, and Shodhana means purification. So what you're literally doing is a breathing technique designed to clear out those channels and bring your whole system back into balance. The technique itself is just this gentle, rhythmic cycle. You sit comfortably, spine nice and straight, then you use your right thumb to gently close your right nostril, and you just inhale slowly and deeply through your left, and you'll want to aim for a count of 5. Then you use your ring finger to close the left nostril, you release your thumb from the right, and you exhale slowly, so slowly, through the right nostril. And here you double the count, exhaling for 10. Then you just reverse it. Inhale through the right for 5, switch, and exhale through the left for 10. That longer exhale, that's the secret sauce. That's what really activates your body's calming response. And you can see the direct impact this has. The source material says this practice helps manage hypertension by directly calming and steadying the mind. It's even thought to balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain, syncing up your logical side with your creative side. The key is just to practice for about 3 to 5 minutes and really focus on keeping the breath completely slow, deep, and silent. No forcing it. So as we start to wrap this all up, what's the big takeaway here? You know, if there's one thing to remember, it's that this entire practice isn't about pushing yourself to the limit. It's actually about learning to listen to your body. So here are the main principles to keep in mind. Number 1, and this is the most important, listen to your body. If something hurts, that's your body telling you to back off. Second, respect those contraindications we talked about. They're not just suggestions, they're there for your safety. Third, the source material mentions a lot of specific conditions. So if you're ever in doubt, talking to a professional is always the smartest move. And finally, always remember that your breath is your best guide. It'll tell you everything you need to know about what's going on inside. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. We started out by asking if an ancient practice could really offer a solution for our modern-day pressure. And maybe the answer is, in a world that's constantly telling us to push harder, go faster, do more, maybe the real key isn't some new technology. Maybe it's the ancient wisdom of learning to just pause, connect with ourselves, and simply breathe. Thanks so much for joining me.
If you have ever, even once, dealt with a stiff back or joints that just feel creaky, then you are in the right place. We're going to walk through 3 specific yoga poses that are absolute game changers for preventing back pain and arthritis, and just for improving your overall joint health. So let's dive right in. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to touch on why this kind of pain is just so common these days. Then we'll get into the good stuff, the half wheel, the gracious pose, and the crocodile pose. We'll break down how to do them and exactly why they work so well. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a quick summary.
All right, first up, a modern ache. Let's take a quick look at where all this common pain and stiffness is really coming from. I mean, really, why is this such a common problem? So many of us can relate to this, right? Well, a huge part of it is our modern lives. You know, all that time we spend sitting, at a desk, in a car, it puts so much strain on our spines and our joints. Over time, that leads to weak muscles, not so great posture, and that general feeling of stiffness. But the good news? Yoga offers a really simple, incredibly effective way to start pushing back against that.
Okay, let's get into our very first pose for relief. This is the half-wheel pose, or in Sanskrit, Ardha Chakrasana. This one is just fantastic for building some serious back strength.
You know, the name of this pose really tells you everything you need to know. Ardha means half, and chakra means wheel. So you're literally making a half-wheel shape with your body. It's a great, much more accessible starting point than the full wheel pose.
So let's walk through it. You're going to start by just standing up straight, clasping your hands together. Then, raise your hands up and over your shoulders. Now, nice and slow, begin to bend your upper body backward. Just go as far as feels good for you, no need to push it. Hold it there for a few breaths, and then slowly, really slowly, come back up to standing.
Now, the benefits of this simple little movement are huge. You're not just getting a nice stretch, you're actively strengthening your back and your core abdominal muscles. It also does wonders for your posture and opens up your chest, which, let me tell you, can feel absolutely incredible after a day of slouching. It's a perfect foundational pose. Okay, super important safety note here. This pose is powerful, for sure, but that means it's not for everybody. If you have any kind of neck, hip, or spinal injury, if you have high blood pressure, or if you're pregnant, it's really best to skip this one. On to our second pose. Now we're shifting gears a bit, moving from a standing back bend to a seated pose that really targets the hips and the lower body. This is the gracious pose, or Bhadrasana.
And the name of this one, Bhadrasana, it tells its own story. Bhadra actually means gracious or auspicious, which perfectly reflects the calm, beneficial nature of this amazing hip-opening posture.
So how do you do it? Start by sitting on the floor with your legs stretched out in front of you. Then bend your knees and bring the soles of your feet together, pulling your heels in as close to your body as you comfortably can. Clasp your feet with your hands, keep that spine nice and straight, and gently place your hands on your knees. This pose, Bhadrasana, is just incredible for your joint health. It works to loosen up the joints and tendons in your pelvis, your knees, and your ankles. Plus, it helps relieve tension all along the spine. It's also really well known for helping to prevent arthritis down the line. And here's another really important safety note. While this pose is fantastic for preventing arthritis, if you already have a serious case, please consult with a yoga expert before you try this one on your own. All right, for our third and final pose, we're shifting from strengthening and stretching into deep relaxation. Say hello to the crocodile pose, or Makarasana. The name for this one is pretty straightforward. Makar just means crocodile, and the pose is meant to look like a crocodile resting on a riverbank, completely and totally relaxed. And trust me, that's exactly the feeling we're going for. This pose is all about surrender. All you have to do is lie on your stomach and make a little pillow for your head with your hands. Rest your head, let your legs fall comfortably apart, and just let go. Breathe slowly and deeply, and feel your whole body just relax into the floor. Now, please don't underestimate the power of just resting like this. Makarasana gives your shoulders and your spine such a deep release. It can help with waist pain, slipped discs, and it's even beneficial for things like asthma because of the slow, deep breathing it encourages. And our last safety note is a really important one. Since you're lying on your stomach for this pose, it's one you'll need to avoid during the second and third trimesters of pregnancy. So, we've looked at 3 very different, but totally complementary poses. The real question is, how do we put them all together to work towards a healthier back and healthier joints? Think of it like this. Here's your quick reference guide. You've got the half wheel for strength in your back and core, you've got the gracious pose for flexibility in your lower body, and you've got the crocodile pose for deep restorative relaxation. Strength, flexibility, and release. Those are really the 3 keys to a happy, healthy spine. And that brings us to the end. We've explored 3 simple yet incredibly powerful tools you can use for your back and joint health. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what is one small step you can take today to care for your back? Maybe it's just spending a few minutes in crocodile pose before you go to sleep. Whatever it is, I hope this helps.